This is Jules, an AI coding agent that runs your tasks in the cloud within their own virtual machine, so it's nice and secure, nice and isolated, away from your local environment. But Jules now has an API, which is really what this video is about. I'm going to show you a quick example using curl, but then move on to something more compelling. In this example, I'm just getting some previous sessions or conversations I've had with Jules, so nothing terribly exciting. However, now that we have full API access to Jules, we can do pretty much anything. I want to create a model context protocol server, but I should stress that this is unofficial, and this is something I'm doing for myself. With AI, I was able to expose a tool using MCP terms to help dispatch tasks to Jules. In theory, if this works, I can actually invoke this tool from my local coding agents and have those tasks run in the cloud so it doesn't disrupt my local workflows, and it kind of runs asynchronously. Before I get started, let me show you what my project looks like. It's an Astro starter blog with random blog posts. The blog posts aren't that exciting, aren't that relevant. It's done purely as a starter kit. So as a test, I'll get local agents to ask Jules to create new blog posts. Let's see if we can get that working. For GitHub Copilot, I need to make an mcp.json file within the .vs code folder, and I need to specify the MCP server that I've made for myself, and then click Start, which is a little button right there within VS Code. Once that's started and there's no errors, I'll quickly show you what a markdown file looks like, by the way, just so you have an idea. I'm going to open up Copilot Chat, specifically the agent mode. I'll make sure that Gemini 2.5 Pro is selected as my model, and again, I have to use agent mode as opposed to ask mode. Let me ask Copilot Chat for Copilot Chat to hopefully invoke my MCP tool to ask Jules to make a blog post about penguins in the starter blog. Straight away, it gives me a task URL, which I can command click, and that opens up in my browser and indeed write a blog post about penguins in the starter blog. That works pretty nicely, but because this conversation I'm having with Copilot Chat has history, I can now just say, give me a status update, and it knows exactly what task I'm referring to, and that ends up invoking yet another MCP tool, which connects to Jules. That uses the Jules API to get the status of that task. In this case, it's in the planning phase. Copilot isn't the only MCP-friendly agent. There's also Gemini CLI, which is worth a try because they do have a very generous free tier. They just need to make a settings.json file in their .gemini folder. I've installed the Gemini CLI, and I invoke that Gemini command. And in here, I can add pretty much the same prompt. Oh, and by the way, there's verification that our tool is running. Great. We got dispatch Jules task and get Jules task status. Nice. Ask Jules to write a blog post about, let's go with hamsters, why not, in this starter blog. Straight away, I get a task URL, and I can command click that and look at the Jules web application. And it's the same task. Just as previously, it looks like Gemini has even added some extra context or suggestions as to what the blog post should be about and how it should be written. Here are the tasks in the web app. There's the markdown file, looks like it's ready to go. There's the hamsters one, the penguins markdown file. And I can now publish that branch, so it'll publish it directly on GitHub. If I go to my Git client, which is GitHub desktop in this case, I can switch to that branch, and because I've already got the Astro server running in my terminal, all I have to do is reload the page in the browser, and there is the hamsters blog. That's just one idea of what you can build out with the API. What are you going to build next?